Good afternoon. Today is April 22nd, 2022. My name is Esmeralda Dimas. I'm interviewing Emma Letke for the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University-Kingsville. This is part of the Voces of the Pandemic Oral History Project in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Letke, that this recorded interview will be placed in the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University-Kingsville and shared with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, especially given that your recording may appear online, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I will need to record you consenting. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are 4 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University-Kingsville wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation at the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University. We will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University-Kingsville. Do you give us consent to archive your interview and your material at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville?
Yes.
You grant South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
Yes.
Do you agree to allow South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes.
Do you grant South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville consent to share your interview and your material with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voices of the Pandemic Oral History Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes.
We have many questions in the pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. The final storing of the pre-interview form will be at South Texas Archives at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville. We will have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members so that we will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessed at the Jernigan Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at the South Texas Archive at the Jernigan Library at Texas A&M University-Kingsville?
Yes.
On occasion, Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes.
Okay, now we will be able to continue from here. Now, first, I want to start off by asking you, how was your day so far?
It was all right. I'm a little sick. I have a sore throat, but it's been good.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your experience with COVID-19. Where were you, or what were you doing when you first heard about it?
So I was a junior in high school when I first found out about COVID-19. And at first I didn't think of it as a big deal or anything that could kill someone. But then I later found out when we all started going online that this is like not good and it's bad. Yeah.
So you were a junior in high school. Like, I'm pretty sure you're like, out of every other high school student, you're probably like, this is not that big of a deal or anything. So what was your first like reaction to it? Like, when you first heard COVID-19, did you really think it was gonna hit close to home, or did you think it was just gonna slide off?
I thought it was gonna slide off. I thought it was gonna pass. And now it's 2022 and it still is happening.
So at what point did you realize that this was really serious?
When it was the ending, sorry, when it was the ending of junior year going into my senior year, that's when I realized how bad it was.
Okay. How did COVID-19 change the way you did everyday activities?
Well, I learned to be more careful and wash my hands more and thoroughly. I learned to put a mask on when I go out in places and take it off when I'm eating and then put it right back on. So I learned to be more careful when I found out and everything.
Okay. And how did it affect your education when it came to like going to school? Did your school like immediately shut down, or did it take some time for it to close?
It took some time for it to close, but well, no, actually, junior year, they told us we had a week or something. I'm not for sure, but they were saying to us that we're gonna do Zoom and be at home and do all our classes at home. And then senior year, they gave us like options if we wanted to go back to school or stay on Zoom.
And how different was that? Like, how did it affect you?
Um, it was a bit weird, I thought at first, because you're used to being in person and seeing people and they're not wearing masks or anything. And then you have to be online and everyone's through a screen. So I thought it was very different and yeah, different.
So, did you like the virtual life more than the in-person? Did you find it as like, wow, I'm going virtual, so it's beneficial? Or did you react to it like, I have to go virtual, this is not good for me?
Well, at first I didn't really like being virtual, but at the same time I did because it gave me more time to do stuff because I would be at home on Zoom. So when I was done with Zoom, I could go out and do stuff. But near the end, I wish that I went back to school because I missed being at school and seeing people face to face. Even if we're wearing masks, it would have been nice to go back.
Hmm. So, how was it like going out into the world during COVID-19?
I think it was a bit scary because we didn't really know that much about COVID-19 then. So it was all very new to us. And I think it was a bit scary because we didn't know what was going to happen or what to do. And I think everyone went a little crazy when they found out about COVID-19. Yes.
So, did you still go out like during COVID, or did you wait until like all the mandates were lifted when you couldn't go out? Did you still go out either way, or did you stay home for the majority of the first year of COVID?
I stayed home for the first year, for the majority of COVID-19 for the first year. And then I started going out and I found out that we have to wear masks and make sure we wash our hands. If there's not a restroom nearby, sanitize, just be careful and everything.
Was there any like after school activity that you were in that just got shut down that you really missed during high school?
So I was in color guard, and that's with the band, and sometimes it's just color guard. And it was a state year. We were gonna go to state. Well, we don't know if we were gonna go to state, but it was a state year, and finding out that we're not going to be able to go and practice, and we're going to have to stay home, and we're not going to be able to compete, I thought that was kind of sad because it was my last year of high school, and I just wanted to have a good year. But then COVID-19 happened, so I couldn't do that.
So I'm pretty sure it was difficult for you to gather with family and friends for events. And I want to ask about your mental health. Like, did your mental health really get affected by COVID?
Well, I think my mental health did get a little bit affected by COVID because I was always at home. I never went out. So being home all the time I just didn't want to be home. So I think it did affect my mental health.
So has COVID hit close to home? Any family member that might have gotten it?
Well, my dad has gotten it a couple times, but he's all right. He's got his vaccines and everything, and he took the time to be quarantined, so he's all right. But no one that I know from my family has passed away because of COVID-19.
How are jobs like? Do you know if your father struggled with his job because of COVID?
He actually didn't really struggle with his job when COVID happened, when it first hit. He just, I think he couldn't go to work for a while. He had to be on Zoom for a couple of weeks. And then when he went in, he had to wear a mask. But I don't think it was difficult for him.
So how did you think the world reacted to this new pandemic? Did you think it was a positive reaction, negative reaction? And do you think that this could have been prevented further?
I feel like it could have been prevented. I don't think people had positive or negative reactions. I think they just, well, maybe negative, because I feel when everyone heard about the pandemic happening, everyone just went a little crazy, going to stores, acting like it was an apocalypse of some sort because everyone was grabbing toilet paper and there was barely any toilet paper on shelves for weeks, and then grabbing food and everything. I think the people were very scared because they didn't know what was going to happen. And I feel like it could have been prevented, but I also feel that it was bound to happen sooner or later.
So with all these social movements going on with like COVID-19, during COVID-19 especially, do you think it was a good idea to do all these social movements during COVID-19?
Well, I didn't go out at first, and then later on I did, but I always made sure that I was safe, and if I ever touched anything, sanitized, and I always wore my mask around. So I think everything was okay.
So was there a moment where there was any concern about finances or money in some type of way, or where you were genuinely afraid that this was never going to go away, you were never going to get out of your house?
I think I don't think I had any concerns about money or financial problems. I think I was just scared that I would never be able to leave my house again because I loved going out and hanging out with friends and seeing family. So I think I was just scared that I would never get to leave the house ever again.
So I'm sure COVID has affected many policies around the area. So what kind of policies were around you where you lived?
Um, so I do live in Texas, and they were where I lived. They were telling us that we couldn't we had to be home at a certain time. Like we had a curfew, and you always had to wear a mask. And at some stores, they would have a line, and they would send a few people in, like let's say 5 people went in, 5 people come out, stuff like that. And the curfew was 9 or 10 o'clock, I believe, where you had to be inside your house and you couldn't be on the road. I think that's kind of it for policies.
So when it came to going to the doctor or hearing about the vaccines, I mean, did you at first agree with the vaccine coming out, or were you questioning about it?
I didn't agree with the vaccine coming out. I was questioning it because I didn't know what it would do to me. And I was nervous because the pandemic, and then there's a vaccine for it. And I was very nervous to get it. And I was very questionable about it.
So you were really nervous to get this vaccine, and a lot of people were. But did you ever eventually receive it?
Yes. And I was still nervous when I received it, but I did get it.
So this is an historical event that, I mean, your generation has gone through for the first time. And how does it make you feel knowing that, wow, I'm going through like something historical?
I think I haven't really thought about that actually, but I think it's kind of interesting to know in the far future, to know what happened in the past, and for people to know what COVID was and how it affected people's lives. I think it would be really interesting. But also, I feel that people would be scared about it
Mhm.
because it is a scary pandemic, I suppose. Yes.
Okay. So going through this pandemic has been pretty crazy, and you and I could both agree with that. So have you ever thought to yourself, like, will this pandemic ever go away? Do you believe at some point this was just gonna dissipate, go away at some point?
Yes and no, because because it's 2022 and we found out the about COVID in 2019. That's why it's called COVID-19. So in some ways, I do think it will go away in a couple of years. And also, I don't think that it will go away. I don't think they would find a cure because all we have is vaccinations, which is helping, but also people are still dying.
Yeah. And how did you feel about the idea that this virus that looks like a flu could kill somebody in a matter of a week?
I was I was terrified. I think that's also why I didn't leave the house. Like my dad would say, you can go outside, like in the backyard. But sometimes I just wouldn't want to because I didn't even know that much about COVID yet. But I was terrified
Mhm.
knowing that you could die within a week. And that was also, I found out about that before they came out with the vaccines. And even though they have the vaccines now, I'm still terrified that I could get COVID and I would only have a week to live. It's very terrifying.
Yeah. So now that we're what, 3 years in? I mean, have you seen any significant change in this pandemic?
I feel that the people are being a lot more positive now, and some people are being careful and some people aren't. But I feel that everyone feels a lot safer now, and everyone, I don't know. I just feel like everyone's mind's changed now.
So what are the most challenging parts of this experience for you?
Maybe spending a lot of time at home, I think, and having classes on Zoom, and also coming to college and you're being in person for the first time in a few years, well, a couple years, I think. Yes. I think it's different.
So also, what things have been on your mind throughout this crisis?
If they have a cure. I know we have vaccinations, like I said before, but if there's a cure, that people will not die within a week, that they will not die at all. I think that's what I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I feel that some people lie and say that they don't have COVID, and then it spreads and spreads, and they shouldn't have to lie because you're killing someone. You're not always killing someone, but they will get COVID, and everyone reacts differently. And some people, they don't even have the vaccinations, so they could die.
So you're really hopeful for a cure.
Mhm.
So do you think that's possible in the future for them to develop a cure for COVID, or does it seem impossible now for you?
I don't think it seems impossible because they came up with the vaccinations. So I think in a couple of years, if they come up with a cure, that would be a lifesaver. Literally, it'd be saving people's lives.
So now are you a little more hopeful about the vaccine now? Do you believe it works? Do you believe it's making a difference?
I think it's making a difference. Yes.
So what is your view on the world now? Now that you're here, now that you're going to college, you're living life now almost as if it never happened. What is your point of view in all of this now?
I think my point of view has definitely changed a lot because I'm no longer scared to go out. I'm still being safe wearing my mask. If I go to a restaurant or when I'm in class, I wear my mask. But I think my point of view has definitely changed on how I see things now. And I hope other people's point of views have changed also. But you still have to be safe because COVID is still out there. And I feel that some people don't understand that, or that they understand that, but they just don't care. They're not going to be careful, and then they catch COVID.
So has the pandemic affected any of your goals that you've had prior to the pandemic?
I don't think sorry. I don't think that it has blocked any goals that I had before and during this pandemic.
And has it been stressful in any way And if so, how did you cope with all the stress coming down?
Um, okay. I think it was stressful because you're at home all the time when the pandemic first hit. So you were at home almost every day, all day. So I think it was stressful because you couldn't do anything. You literally could not do anything. You could just sit around your house, do school, eat, sleep, and repeat. And I think it was just stressful because you just wanted to get out and see the world again and have fun with family and friends.
Do you believe there's any good that came out of this whole thing happening?
I am not sure about that. Uh, I think about this whole thing, it taught people to be a lot safer, to be more careful when you're out, and to make sure that you're washing your hands and just to be safe overall and stop yourself from getting sick.
And do you believe COVID was an eye opener for some people?
I think so. I think it really was an eye opener for some people.
So now that you come down to this, I mean, now people have completely almost as if COVID doesn't exist anymore, which is really crazy. So now that when you look back at square one, we were at around 2 years ago. Are you almost are you like relieved that this is all not over in a sense, but are you happy to know that that you can go out, you can go outside now, you're able to go to stores?
I am much happier now that I know that I'm able to go out, but I still have to wear a mask in some places, even though they did lift the mask mandate, but I still want to be careful. But I do think that I'm definitely much happier now than I was when we first heard about COVID-19.
Okay. So now we come to the mask portion. What is your opinion on wearing masks? Do you believe it makes a difference, or has it made a difference in any of this?
I definitely think it has made a difference because people are or were learning to be more careful, and they weren't spreading because they were saying I forgot the symptoms of COVID, but of how it would spread. But if you weren't wearing a mask, you could spread COVID-19. So I think it's good to wear a mask.
Okay. Um, is there how's your mental health now compared to the way it was before?
I definitely think it's a lot better now because I can hang out with my friends. I can be face to face with the teachers, and it will help me learn better than being online, because I felt that also being online you didn't really get taught as well. So I think my mental health is a lot better now.
All right, so is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I haven't asked about?
No, I think that was all.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me interview you. Um, I really hope anything that has been going on due to COVID that it has impacted you has fixed itself, that you and your family are healthy and everything works out for the better.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you too.